PayPal froze their revenue and have withheld thousands of dollars from them.
Today, I identify as a Shih Tzu.
I just thought I'd take a second to get down to the real reason we're here. How many of you guys are virgins? Okay, Scarlett?
Hello, everyone. I had to check to make sure I'm not muted. I'm pretty sure I'm not. And if I am, I have a feeling my chat will laugh at me and inform me that I am yet again muted. Hello, everyone. My name is Gothix. Welcome to the channel. Obviously, you know my name because it's on the channel. Today is super exciting because I'm going to be chatting with, you can hear me? Great. I'm going to be chatting with Marcus Pittman and Jason Farley. I think I'm saying their names correctly. And they are the guys over on Lore.tv, which is the new streaming platform that the Gothix documentary is going to be funded and released on. So I figured it would be great to have them on so we can talk a little bit about the platform, the documentary, so you guys can be more informed as to what exactly is Lore. So let's welcome Marcus and Jason. Hello, how are you?
Great, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Awesome to have you guys here. You got your coffee. I got my coffee. I'm so tired today.
I have sweet tea. Is that okay?
Sweet tea? Get out. Awesome. So for those that don't know exactly what is Lore, I've tried explaining it numerous times on this channel, but it would be great to hear from your mouths. What exactly is Lore? How did you come up with it? Well, what is it?
Yeah, so the easiest way to explain it is Lore is a streaming service, but you spend your monthly subscription funding the movies and TV shows that'll stream on the platform. So the community is coming together and they're building a streaming platform together as opposed to just trusting woke Hollywood executives to give you the content you want to see.
Okay. I like that. So now they feel like this is a silly question, but was Lore motivated by something in particular?
Yeah, I was I worked for a faith-based streaming service and thought all the movies were just garbage and trash. And so I went and I left and I made a pro-life documentary, spent a whole year working on it, put it on Amazon Prime, and then Amazon Prime deleted it. And I said, we have a real problem here because faith-based movies are mostly all garbage. And then Hollywood isn't ever going to let us, they're never going to serve our movies. So what do? There wasn't an option. And that's pretty much how Lore started. And I knew that to solve the problem, Christian artists, conservative artists, filmmakers needed funding and distribution. Those were the two big things. And so that's what we did on Lore is we just created a platform where the community, the subscribers fund the content without Hollywood executives in the way and interfering.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I think the fact that it is a faith-based platform is you kind of know sort of what you're getting into. At least there's not going to be any surprises, I think, in terms of like content that doesn't necessarily contradict the Christian belief. But what I really like about it is that your slogan is not, what is it, unfiltered by Hollywood and church ladies.
Exactly.
And you just mentioned it because I've seen some faith-based movies and they're terrible. And why do you think that is? What is it about Christian movies that maybe with good intentions end up being trash?
Well, the what I've seen is that there's a bunch of reasons. It's a big complicated issue, but one of them is that the people with money, what they want their money to be used for is really just a big sermon illustration, right? So they're hoping that they're using their money for some sort of spiritual good for people. The problem is movies, a movie that's made as something other than a movie usually isn't good. A movie should try to be the art form of a movie in order for it to be a good art form. And then you might be able to pull some sort of, maybe the pastor some Sunday will say, hey, here's a great sermon illustration from this movie, The Princess Bride or something. But you don't get good movies trying to make sermon illustrations. And that's because the people with the money want that. Most of the filmmakers would rather make a movie, but I've been in those meetings where the person with the money says, well, here's the list of things that we need done or not done in this movie. Can you do that? And you think, well, there goes my plot,
Yeah, someone mentioned it in the chat, is they prioritize message over art.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think art is definitely, especially if you're going to get into making movies, that's sort of the focal point, and I think that with movies in general, if you're trying to make a message, you can do it without it being so I don't know. It takes away from the whole thing. I'm not going to say what movies I watched, but they were pretty bad. Awesome.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing is art is this, movies are this long discussion between artists where you've got artists that push the medium forward and they make a great movie and tell a great story, and it inspires the next generation of filmmakers to push the art forward in a different direction and develop new technologies and tell stories. When you first started getting stories told out of chronological order, everybody was freaking out. This is amazing, and it inspires people to make art. The problem is that Christians haven't, or the church in general hasn't valued art as something created by somebody made in the image of God that connects people and inspires people and does all the things that art does, and they want it instead to do the things that a sermon does, which is good too. It's just a different art form.
Right. So you guys, have you officially launched? Yeah,
we have officially launched.
Okay, that is awesome. So what are some of the have you guys encountered any obstacles while you were preparing to launch that you didn't foresee, or tell us a little bit about that? You're laughing.
You go first, Marcus.
There's a lot of obstacles. It's hard to build your own streaming platform. It is not easy. And so one of the problems that we ran into was finding investment. That was a massive challenge that slowed things down, mainly because we realized that conservatives don't really inherently see art as valuable assets. The liberals do. The left is really big on knowing that storytelling is valuable, but conservatives are way more facts and data and numbers driven. So when you tell them, no, good movies are worth money, they just go, well, how do you know a movie's good? Right. And so that was one of the biggest wake up calls. It's oh yeah, no wonder we're behind in the arts for a reason, and this is one. The other thing was just the time it takes to build up the reputation that we have had among the artists. It just takes time. That's something that didn't come very easily. But I think we have it now. Jason's done a phenomenal job of letting artists know that if they want to make a movie or a TV show, that they can come to Lore and they'll have more freedom than anyone in the industry and own their content at the end of the day too, which is nice. So it's been a lot of challenges, but I would say the biggest one was probably from the investment front, at least for me. Jason can speak to something else.
Yeah, I mean, I have been surprised at how the few investors value art and storytelling, and that just puts conservatives at a major disadvantage because we've been in this storytelling war since the Garden of Eden, and we think in terms of facts and data and talking heads, and then we lose over and over and over because we don't have the storytelling. We don't free our artists to go out and fight back in the realm of art and story. If they're going to get money, they have to go play the game in Hollywood. They have to play along with the woke, keep their head down, and develop they've got these skills that they've been developing, and there's no one on the conservative side that says, "Ooh, let's fight back. Let's tell some great stories." One of the things that Karl Marx said is that if he said, "I don't need to control the government. All I need to control is the history curriculum." Right? If I can tell a people what their story is, then the next generation I'll have them.
Yeah.
And I think that's and we have what we've done is played defense. We try to keep we're so concerned about keeping things out of our libraries that we never worry about writing the great books to go into the libraries. We're so worried about keeping things out that we don't go out and create the art. And so one of the struggles that I've found is I get to sit down and talk with a conservative artist, and I say, "Okay, what's the story you want to tell?" And he says, "Well, here is the thing that I think will work. Right now everybody's funding stuff with a female protagonist and this." And I said, "Well, no, don't worry about that. What's the story you want to tell?" And it sometimes takes 2-3 times of asking before they say, "Really?" Because I've got this story back here that I've been told over and over won't work, that I couldn't get funding for. And it's this brilliant, incredible idea. And you think that movie needs to be made. How come everybody tells you not to pitch it? But it's because it's opposing the agenda of the people with money. And conservatives haven't invested their own money into their own pipeline to be able to tell stories that beautify truth and remember our history in good ways. It's easy to say, "Oh, well, let's stop the 1619 Project." It's harder to say, "Well, let's tell the story right, though. Like, let's actually fight back by telling the true story."
Yeah. Oh man, everything you guys just said resonated with me because I'm someone as you guys know, I started in the gaming sphere, and even now I get a lot of criticisms about video games and how I shouldn't entertain myself with certain video games because it makes conservatives weird, and particularly Christians. It's a little bit weird for me to be playing this game or watching this movie, and I get this impression that conservatives are sort of just not even bother touching the artistic realm, and it's no wonder why art seems to be dominated by the left. Right. and I think maybe they're more willing to take risks. They're less afraid. Maybe that's an accurate guess. Yeah.
Marcus, tell your story about when you went to speak about video games.
So I spoke at a children, well, it was a teenager conference, a Bible conference that they did, and I was a speaker, and had to speak 5 times. It's probably about 500 kids together, all teenagers, middle school to teenagers, and I spoke on. It was called. The title was long, but it was called "Kill the Dragon, Get the Girl: The Gospel in Super Mario Brothers."
Okay.
But basically, I basically went through the history of video games and demonstrated how it was a unique family activity always from the beginning. It was always the family. It was always advertised as something the family can do together. And then I talked about how Dungeons and Dragons was invented by a Christian, and the Christian worldview in Dungeons and Dragons. And I really went in. And then I talked about, you have the Christian imagery and the first drawings from Legend of Zelda. How it was a cross on the shield, and it was a Triforce representing the Trinity, and there's a original drawing of Link praying to a crucifix with Jesus actually on it. So it was very clear that he was a knight during the Middle Ages protecting the princess, and all that Christian imagery was in it. So I went through all this, and I had a parent remove his child from the talk because they just thought there was something inherently evil with video games, and you can't even like find the value and good in it. And that was just really strange to me, because it's a storytelling mechanism.
Yeah.
But it was, yeah, specifically in video games, Christians are just non-existent. Conservatives in general, non-existent. They just like, we are not like, we're trying to get a streaming platform off the ground. But we're so far, the left is so far past that they're already in video games, AR and AI, right? So I mean, like, we're not even there yet. We're just trying to, like, let's get some good content that's not for 65-year-old women. Like, that's the hard push right now. It's like, can we at least make some movies that aren't for 65-year-old women? Like, can we have that victory? And so that's been the challenge, is convincing people that there's a market for conservative entertainment that's not for 65-year-olds. But that's why we built the platform the way we did, in that the community can come together and spend their money and make the movie and make the platform that they want. Because if it was just up to us and we were just buying content, that's the same old, and you're not really like pushing the boundaries of art and content forward, right? Because the content boundaries would only be really what me and Jason want to spend money on. Right? And investors don't care enough about movies and TV to give us the money we would need to be able to do that in the first place. So the only option is to go to the community and say, look, what if the money that you spend on your monthly subscription, you actually had a say in the content that was funded and delivered on the platform? So Gothix, your audience is large enough that you could fund the entire movie within a week or two if all your members of your audience went and subscribed to Lore. The money is there, and it's not there because of the Hollywood executives. It's there because the money is there from your audience. And so that's what we want to prove to people, because then, I mean, look, if we can show that we don't need Hollywood executives to make content decisions for us, and that the audience is capable of making those decisions well on their own, then it's completely disruptive to the entire film industry. It's completely disruptive, and it's a huge conservative win, I think.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I am super. Go ahead.
Well, people forget that everything is crowdfunding. It's always just a question of who controls the crowd's funds. And we're trying to show that when you actually put when you let the crowd decide how their funds are spent, that you get great content and you don't get the woke stuff that keeps getting pushed on us, and then loses money, right? So but it's always just a question of who gets to control the crowd's funds.
Got you. I mean, that's a good point. But you guys, did you hear that? If everyone on my channel went and subscribed to Lore, you can fund the Gothix documentary in a week. All right? Because I know there was some questions like, oh, isn't the documentary already made? Yes, technically it's almost done, but we gotta get some money back.
Yeah,
we gotta.
Yeah.
What is this? No,
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like we this is what's different. The movie is already made, but the subscribers get to determine if they want to pay the distribution fee, right? So if they pay the distribution fee, then everyone gets paid, and then the movie streams on Lore for 2 years. So and then here's the best part: every subscriber that comes after the Gothix movie is funded gets to watch the Gothix movie without funding it, and they can fund other content. So, right? So we call that leaving an inheritance. I guess the left would say you're leaving privilege.
Ouch.
But you're leaving inheritance of content for future subscribers. So there's not a lot of content on the platform now, but there will be very soon. In fact, I would say a lot of our content is funding already at a pace faster than we thought it would.
Hmm.
So that's exciting, really exciting news. And so I think it's going to happen. I think it's going to work. This is like the darkest part of it, though, right? Because this is what I call the valley.
Yeah.
Because the first subscribers pretty much have no content. There's Teach All Nations and Dark Holler, and there's like 5 episodes of 2x2 for like your 2-year-old kids. But for the most part, there's no content on the platform. But if we can start to fund the first few episodes of content, it just snowballs after that, and everybody else has more content. So this is the first mystery as to whether or not we can do this, and I know we can. We did it during beta, and we're already doing it now. So it's already happening. Content's getting funded. So
Yeah.
Well, my teenage daughter, she's 19 now. She was 18 when she saw the first cut of the Gothics documentary, of your documentary, and she said, "Dad, every teenager in the country needs to see this. We have to understand," because in her mind, she says we can solve this problem. The teenagers, we have the opportunity to fix this, but we have to know this problem is here. And she's my kid that hosted a watch party for What Is a Woman when it came out, and got her friends together and said, so there are teenagers out there that need to see this, and so if everybody jumps on, you could fund it. And if you pay for good art, you get more good art in the future. That's the thing that capitalism does that socialism always ruins. It takes all the capitalist money and it makes a bunch of art, and then there's nothing left for the next generation.
Right. Yeah. And that, as Graham said, it's a slow start, but that's the nature of most good investments. It's a brand new platform. And I've heard countless times from people that watch this channel where they're sick of all the woke movies. And it's like, well, why do you keep giving your money to all of these woke platforms? If you're unhappy, save your money and put it towards something else. Put it towards lore, because they're trying something different. And because let's be real, all these other platforms, they sort of dominate the market. So you need to be able to put a wedge in that. And I think lore is the perfect example of it.
Gothics, have you spent your loot today yet?
Yes, I have.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, I have not spent my loot. Could I demo that? Could I screen share?
I think you can. You should be able to on your side.
Yeah,
I already spent mine too.
I want to do that.
I don't
try
wait
it.
around.
Because I want to show people how this works.
Yeah, and explain the extra loot and all that stuff. Actually, that's a great point to bring up. Let me know if you don't see that button.
I think it's called present. Yeah,
All right.
There we go.
it takes me about 45 seconds to spend my loot every Tuesday. I get so excited.
All right. So this is what when you log in and you have an account, this is what you'll see. You'll see up here at the top, I have 1,400 loot. I get that pretty much every week. And so this loot, this silver loot expires. We'll talk about gold loot later. That's going to come in the next week or so. But silver loot is what I get every week. And this is just a portion of your monthly subscription that you get every week to be able to fund projects that you want to see. So if we go to Gothics here, we can see Gothics has 63,000 loot and needs 237 million. So basically what I can do is I can go here and then I just confirm I want to spend 800 of my loot, and there it goes. So and then I can spend another 400, confirm, and actually if you refresh, you can see the value goes up. So it goes up after a minute, but that's how it works. And then once it hits that goal, whether it's at midnight or 3 a.m. or 7 in the morning, that show goes live, and it's live for 2 years on the platform for anyone who subscribes. So it's very simple. Now the other option is the gold loot here. So if you we're going to turn this on eventually, but what this will do is you can buy this loot for as much money as you want. You can buy as much of it as you want, and then it doesn't expire every week. So you have way more control. And also, this is very important, Gothics. Once we turn on gold loot, a higher percentage of dollar goes towards content with gold loot. So when your audience buys gold loot, they're actually spending more of their dollar on it's like upwards of 90% of all their dollar is going straight to the funding of the content. So that's really important for your audience to know that when they buy gold loot, they're pretty much directly funding content. So that's important to know. But that's how the platform works. We have content, and then we have content to watch. This is already funded, and then you can fund content. And then once this project is, if you look at something like this is a much cheaper to produce show, but see, it's already almost a quarter of the way funded. And then Barely Biblical has probably got the most amount of loot right now. And this is an animated show where teddy bears reenact the most violent stories. So, but yeah, so that's it. That's the platform.
Okay.
It's pretty simple.
So just to reiterate, once you subscribe, that silver loot, that's something that you earn weekly, and you have to spend it weekly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That expires. The reason that expires is because we don't want we don't want that money just sitting there and not going towards funding content because people just forget about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it expires, it goes back to us, and then a lot of that loot goes towards, if you invite a friend, you'll get loot from that pile of expired loot. But it all goes toward all your loot, all the loot, whether it's expired or not, eventually winds up going back towards funding content, whether it's through coupons or incentives or challenges, or quests is what we call them. So we'll have quests too. So for example, if you watch, once we have it available, if you watch 10 hours of content in a weekend, you'll get some bonus loot to spend and fund content. If you invite a certain amount of friends, you'll get bonus loot. There's going to be all sorts of really cool ways to earn loot. You know, if you're the person that funds a project and let's say you're the last person to fund the Gothics documentary and cause it to go live. Your loot is what causes it to go live. You can get bonus loot that way as well. So a lot of prizes and stuff like that. We're trying to figure out a way to basically turn the creation of a streaming platform into a video game. That's
Pretty
sort
cool.
of the mentality. Ultimately, at the core, is like instead of earning treasure chests full of prizes
Skins.
that you get extra lives or
Worthless
whatever.
skins.
Yeah, skins.
Skins aren't worthless though. Like I love when I get a new skin because then it's like woohoo, look at me.
Yeah. Instead of skins, what if you got TV shows and movies?
Yeah, I like that better.
Way better. So that's
John had a question in the comments. He said, "Who funds the silver loot?" And so how it works is, when your subscription comes in, we take a little bit off the top at the beginning of the month, and then the rest of it divides up weekly into your silver loot. So it's the silver loot is your subscription money being spent on the content that you want to see. Does that make sense?
Makes sense to me.
Okay.
So when the gold loot goes live, are you guys going to notify the people who have already subscribed?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So we'll let the entire world know.
Okay, cool. Because I got people asking me now, I can't buy any gold loot. I'm like, I don't know why, but you guys just explained it.
Yeah. As you each thing you roll out, you have to test and squash all the bugs before you roll the next thing out, because otherwise it's overwhelming for our tech guys. So, but gold loot is next. It's the next thing that rolls out. So
that's exciting. Okay. All right. So, guys, if you have any questions about lore, please drop them in the chat. I'd love to ask them to these two wonderful peoples here.
I don't understand Nathan Campbell's question. Because I want to answer it. Have you heard of the coup d'etat of Bikini Bottom?
Oh, is that French? I tried saying a French word the other day on stream and I butchered it.
Yeah, that's coup d'etat is French.
Coup d'etat. Coup d'etat.
Coup d'etat. I believe it means the last punch that knocks somebody out, or the last thing that accomplishes the defeat.
Mm-hmm.
but I might be wrong. My French isn't that great. I need ask me questions in Latin, then we're good. I don't know French or Italian. Italian's just dirty Latin. We usually figure Italian out.
So we had a question about one of the projects on Lore. Could you tell us a little bit more about, how do you say that? The Psalter?
Yeah, the Psalter. So the Psalter is it's a series of short films where each film takes one of the Psalms from the Old Testament book of Psalms and develops a story around that Psalm. The idea of it being that, and each one is done by a different filmmaker. So you've got something like Black Mirror, where everything is a different story, each one, but they're all around. With Black Mirror, it's around the questions about the development of technology and our humanity. What does it take to keep our humanity as technology develops? Well, the Psalter is similar, different filmmakers writing different stories, but it's around different psalms. So you've got something like Psalm 88, where you've got the psalmist working through the depression of being feeling separate from God. And so then the filmmaker takes the psalm and he works out a story around the theme of that psalm and films it. And so it's a really exciting project. I think that it's a good way of giving filmmakers a really cool really cool opportunities to tell some experimental stories. I just saw Graham's funny comments. He says it's Italian is not dirty Latin, it's naughty Latin. I like that better. It makes sense of all the Italians I know. So so that's a really cool that's a cool idea. And it's conservatives and Christians don't really have an entry point for the pipeline for filmmakers the way that you do in Hollywood. If you want to go be a filmmaker, there's pipeline entry points, and we're trying to build some of those with things like the Psalter. We've got an animated show we haven't announced yet that's kind of like Adult Swim, experimental cartoons in different universes from different animation studios, trying to find the great ones that take off to fight back against things like the nihilism of Rick and Morty, which can be very funny, but ultimately it's a nihilistic universe, and we don't have anyone fighting back, and so we leave our teenagers in the hands of American Dad and Rick and Morty and what's the one with the talking baby?
Family Guy.
Family Guy. Yeah, we leave our teenagers in the hands of those sorts of shows. And conservatives, this drives me nuts. Conservatives all say, oh, well, teenagers all think that they're bleeding heart liberals and they'll grow up and become conservatives someday because they'll realize. I'm like, well, what? But that's because you were a bad parent. That's not because that all conservatives are naturally bleeding heart liberals, right? That's your own damn fault.
Yeah, no, I don't agree with that at all. I mean, and I've seen a lot of people who are liberals in like their 60s, so I'm not quite sure.
Exactly. So I'm really passionate about making content for teenagers that actually has conservative and Christian principles embedded within it, so that they don't feel like, oh, there are no teenagers are conservatives. My 16-year-old son was skateboarding down to Target the other day, and he called me from Target, and he said, Dad, I think I'm everything that the world is terrified of. I was like, what are you talking about? He says, I'm a Christian and I know why. He said, I'm listening to Thomas Sowell, and so I'm becoming a capitalist that knows why he's a capitalist. I'm getting ready to start my first business. He says, I'm everything that the world should be terrified of, as a 16-year-old boy that knows why he's a conservative Christian capitalist, all of those things. And that's what I want. I want a whole generation of teenagers that look at that look at old liberals and think, why would I want a life like that? That sounds terrible. I don't want socialism. I want to go out and serve my neighbor and make some money and have the power to love people because I've got in my bank account.
That's That's awesome. That's very it feels like that's very rebellious now. I keep seeing this phrase
know.
that conservatism is the new punk, and I don't know. I feel like I've been resonating with that a lot. Because I feel like the vast majority of people I feel adopt towards the whole liberal progressive stuff, and so that's sort of normal, you know. And I don't know, I find that so admirable when I see teenagers that are unafraid of just being conservative and speaking about their faith and their belief in God. It's like that's awesome.
Yeah, I grew up in the punk rock movement of the 80s and the 90s, and I used to have highlighter yellow dyed afro and everything, like it was because it was punk rock. And all of my punk rock friends, as soon as the man came, I remember shouting "Down with the man, oi oi oi," and then they came along with the vaccine, and every single one of them was like, well, but we should probably listen to the man this time. And I'm like, what the heck's wrong with you? None of us trust the man. Remember, we don't trust the man. What is going on here? Yeah, it didn't work as well as it should have. Yes, Graham, I've raised 4 extremists, actually.
Yeah. Let me see. We had a super chat here from. Go ahead.
Gothics, here's something
Yeah,
I
go
want
ahead.
to say to your audience.
Yeah, go for it.
Once your project is funded on Lore, we want you to do a live commentary of the whole movie on your YouTube channel.
I'll do it.
Yeah, I think that's important because a lot of this is another thing of when you free up the film industry from the Hollywood executives or the filmmakers from the Hollywood executives. We want you to do commentary on your own movie. It's your movie.
Okay. All right. I wasn't sure because someone asked me about that.
Copyright strike your channel. And I think it'll be a really cool behind the scenes feature of that on Lore as well, to put that on Lore, because I think that'd be really valuable. And so so I think I'm excited that you'll have that opportunity to do that. And I think most artists should be free to talk about their movies without worrying about copyright strikes.
Thank you for the clarification. I agree with you.
This is what Master P has been teaching us since he started No Limit Records. So artists ought to own their masters.
I am not privy to Master P, so I'm going to take your word for it.
It has a hip hop analogy somewhere.
Yeah.
There's a
Somewhere,
business of hip hop.
I'm judging
Wu-Tang?
you.
Should I do a Wu-Tang? I can do a Wu-Tang.
No,
version
please
of
don't.
this.
Please.
No, okay.
Oh man.
There was a super chat that we didn't.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't answer.
Here's one from Voice of the People. Thank you for the 5. I'll be funding some this weekend. Can't wait to see it. I know how much Graham put into it, and knowing some of them personally hits close to home. Thank you so much, Voice. There was another one that just came in also from Oh Really Gothics. Maybe make the influencer rounds, Amala, etc. I mean, that's on the list. I'm definitely gonna reach out to some other content creators to talk about the doc. And it's so weird. I don't know if you guys can understand where I'm coming from when I say this. I definitely expressed this to Graham a few times. It's weird trying to promote a documentary knowing that the documentary is about me. I'm trying to disconnect this feeling of narcissism. Like, yes, this is a documentary about me. But as you said, your daughter watched it, and it's a message that I think most teenagers, or anyone who uses the internet for that matter, who's opinionated, can relate to.
I mean, absolutely. And think, the book of Jonah is about Jonah. Jonah had to write his own story for the book of Jonah. So you just think of it that way. I went through this story. Let it be a prophecy and a blessing to everyone else.
Ron Rifle wants to know, what platforms are Lore available on?
Oh, so right now the website is the platform. So we're going to work on introducing it through Roku and other means, but right now we want to do it in such a way, one, that Roku doesn't take 30% of all income, because that would go. They do that. So if you were to buy loot per se on the Roku platform, then they would take an additional 30% off the top, which would cut away from the artists. So we don't want to do that. But the other thing is we don't want lore to be an exclusively, I'm just going to sit back and watch content thing, like a Netflix. Like the community is actually building something. So however we do it on Roku or whatever, we want to make sure that you can actively fund projects and participate in the building of the platform, and not just sit back and watch stuff on your couch. So that's sort of the challenges of building that. But once we build up our core web base, we'll be able to position and move them to whether it's Google TV or Roku and figure out how to do that. But right now, you just cast the shows to your TV just like normal. So no real need at this moment.
Over in the comments, Iona Koa, I think that's how you pronounce it, if it's Celtic.
This one?
Has a question. Marcus, can there be an investment level loot?
We've talked about this. This might be something that comes in later. We talked about maybe like a diamond loot, where you get one of them for a certain amount of money, and then you get your name in the credits or something like that, as a producer or something along those lines. But that'll come as we grow, and we'll figure out how to do that. But yeah, that for sure will probably be an option at some point.
And if Iona Koa could be Celtic or it could be Hawaiian, I'm not sure. But if it's Celtic, maybe it should be an emerald instead of a diamond.
I like that.
And then we'll add the diamond in later. If it's Hawaiian, though, I don't know. Volcano.
I got a question here from G. Joseph, and they wanted to know what your thoughts on the current writer strike was. I'm not really informed on all of that happening. I don't know if you guys are.
I've been keeping track as a writer with a lot of friends. Go ahead, Marcus. I interrupted you.
I think it's great for us. Look, the unions increase the prices of films tremendously. They set a lot of rules that make it difficult to make it difficult to work on set, and it's not a free. The unions are not a free market solution in that sense, to keeping the costs down on projects, and I think the true value of having a lot of projects be non-union is that there's way more freedom for the filmmakers and the artists to collaborate and work together, whereas the union rules make it illegal for the gaffer to work on to hold a camera, for example, right? Like they have to stay in those roles, or they have to increase the pay and just all this sort of stuff. But it's nothing like, I think, a 3 or 4 man film crew that everybody's doing everything. I think you get much better projects anyway. So I think now's the time. I think people are going to see that, oh man, all these non-union films are really stepping up, especially if it extends for a while. I think we'll see that. So.
Okay. Cool.
And also, I've got a lot of friends that work in unions, and that's just because that's what you have to do to make a living, doing the art. But the union itself is based on the same thing socialism is based on, which is rivalry, right? That you have to build up a rivalry between the people making the movie and the crew. And that once those people are rivals, then they have to hash it out, and they're always against one another. Whereas when you've got a really great crew where everybody gets along and everybody's having a great time, there are filmmakers that are really good at building that on set, and that's really how you get the art that comes across as joyful. You can feel the joy that comes out of something where it's not based on rivalry. And you just hear over and over really, really hard stories about unions and filmmakers getting into rivalrous standoffs. So exactly, yeah, envy and deception are the hallmarks of Marxism. So that envy that builds rivalry based on the lie that there's a limited number of resources that we have to fight for. When that's not the world God built. It's overflowing with resources. And when we love one another and love our neighbors, we don't run into the same sorts of problems. And unions don't help with that.
So you just educated me on what the union was about. That just sounds like a headache. You know, I just want to work on a team and make some art.
Right. Most people do.
Yeah.
Iona Koa said she's Hawaiian, or corrected that it's Hawaiian and not Celtic. So I want to make sure. So I was in the Hawaiian club in college, so that's important to not make that mistake.
Oh, are you Hawaiian?
No, I was the lone Howley. There was a cute girl, and so I joined the Hawaiian club.
I see.
I was on the I was on the hula team, so I could be her dance partner. And then she turned me down when I asked her out. So
Okay. Graham wants to know, where did you get the name for Lore?
Yeah, so that actually comes from the root of it is lore, where you get laurels, you get like folklore. Don't rest on your laurels. A lot of film festival awards use like the Ivy sort of laurel awards, like Sundance Film Festival, that sort of thing. And it's Jason can explain it better, but it's basically an award or a gift. And so we wanted, basically the original idea, and still is may the best story win.
I like that.
Yeah, so back in ancient Athens, they would have the Athenian drama contest, where you'd have to put forward a trilogy of tragedies and one comedy, and then you would put these plays on, and then they would vote who won, and they got the laurels, and then they became the storyteller of the city, or their story became the official story of the city for the year, with the laurels. And so we're fighting for the story of the city still. And so we're trying to let people pass out the laurels rather than Hollywood executives and the Academy Awards, pass out the laurels. Let's let the people do it.
Yeah. Those award shows that nobody watches anymore. At least I don't.
Unless there's a good fight right on stage,
Oh, yeah. Oh, man, that's a mess.
I watch the Academy Awards for the same reason I watch hockey, hoping a fight breaks out.
For the fights? So
Yeah.
I'm not a sports person, but if there's some type of hand-to-hand combat, and I guess hockey falls into that, then I'll watch.
Yeah.
A Pilgrim Progressing says, the Beerly biblical creator is an amazing Christian.
Yeah, Tim Engel. He's a great guy. Where is he? He's been a Japanese missionary. He's done amazing things, but he's also an incredible storyteller and animator. And so, Marcus, you should tell the story of how we ended up with that show.
Oh yeah, okay. So we were at a Christian film conference, really great conference, by the way. And we were there. And basically, we're sitting in a room. Me and Jason are sitting in a room with a bunch of guys from like Pureflix, Angel, I think Minnow, and like just like all these like all the Christian streamers were there, and then there's like me and Jason. But before that, we had like a sort of meeting where everybody got to introduce themselves that were at this conference. And so I just get up in front of the microphone and go, hey, my name is Marcus. I'm the CEO of Lore. We're a new streaming platform, and we're looking really for the MTV punk rock of Christian films. And so if you think you have an idea that Pureflix wants, we don't want it. That's basically what and we just did it. And this guy Tim comes up to us. I mean, we're just hearing bad pitch after bad pitch, just another version of a Hallmark rom-com after another version of a Hallmark rom-com. And then he comes up to us and he has a napkin. And he says, I've had this idea forever, but everybody told me nobody would buy it. Nobody wanted it. And so we'll hear it. And it was called, he just showed us a teddy bear on a napkin and says, I want a show me and my son can watch. So I want to have teddy bears reenact the most violent Old Testament Bible stories. And we were laughing so hard. And then he said, he upped it. And he said, I'll even include circumcision by whether the tags on the bears have a nip cut out of it or not. And we lost it. We were lost it. And so he only had, like, you do these pitch-a-thons, he only had 5 minutes, and we're still laughing. And these other guys are coming, and they're giving like the worst Hallmark pitch ever. And we're just like trying not to, like, me and Jason were trying not to like laugh during these people's pitch because you're trying to be respectful. And we're not laughing at their pitch. We're still thinking about, as they're telling us about, you know, these movies for 65-year-old women, we're still thinking about how amazing this Barely Biblical pitch is. And they would leave after their 5-minute pitch, and we just immediately, me and Jason would turn to each other and just start talking about this. We actually called up our COO, and I said, is there any way we can just give him a little bit of money just to secure this thing and get it off the ground? And we did. And we presented him with a contract at the conference and announced it at all the conference because it was the best pitch we've ever heard.
Wow.
So that's how that happened. The pilot's already made. So as soon as it's funded, the pilot will be made, and he'll be able to use the money from the pilot to fund the second episode, which I believe is Ehud, right?
Yeah, is Ehud the left-handed swordsman and Eglon the very fat king so he sneaks in a sword because he's left-handed, and they check him for a sword, and he gets through, and he says, "Hey, can I talk to you in the bathroom?" to the king, and then he stabs him, and he's so fat that the fat wraps around his wrist, and he can't get the sword out, so he has to leave the sword inside the dead king. It's an amazing story. And I can't wait to see it in teddy bears.
I would watch that. I'd watch that.
Everybody would. We pitch this to Christians and non-Christians alike all over the country, and almost everyone says, I will totally watch that. Every once in a while we get someone who's offended because it's not woke. But for the most part, people that aren't woke still like to have a good time, even if they're not Christians, and they realize that that's hilarious.
But
Yeah.
This is the thing. Anybody who rejected Barely Biblical should have been fired. Like, they should have been fired. But the reason is the reason that Christian conservative movies are so bad is not because there's a lack of money. There's been a lot of great movies that have been made for no budget. It's not because there's a lack of creativity or all the Christians are in Hollywood. The reason that all the Christian conservative movies are so bad is because the executives at these top levels have no idea what they're doing when it comes to movies and entertainment and art. They don't trust filmmakers to make content. They don't know a good story when they see it. So I mean, it really is incompetence at a massive scale, and this is why you see a lot of the diversity pushes that we see now that just make absolutely no sense. Like they don't make any sense. Because it's not really about the art or the story or the entertainment anymore. It's always about something else. And so this is why we needed, like, we were going to push Christian conservative movies to actually be decent and not be complete trash. We felt like we needed to trust the audience to build that platform, and not executives. And so that's why we built Lore. But yeah, it's incompetence at a massive scale. And still to this day, if I find anybody that rejected Barely Biblical, they'll never work for Lore ever again.
Sheesh.
Because they don't work for us in the first place. But they'll never work for us. Unless they're deeply, they have a really good explanation, or they can show that they fought for it almost to the point of being fired.
Man. So that sort of leads me into my next question. So what are the qualifications if let's say an artist wanted to get their work funded? So right now it's just movies and TV shows, right?
Yeah.
All right. So what would be the things that you look for to have that on your platform?
I mean, what we're looking for is the stuff that doesn't have a platform already, right? If it could go to Netflix, because it's not conservative or Christian enough, then they should go to Netflix. If it can go to PureFlix because it isn't masculine enough, then they should go to PureFlix. But we're looking for the stuff that that is the low budget indie and experimental punk rock filmmakers, and then also looking for the stuff that doesn't fit anywhere else, because right now everything is sort of conglomerated into certain areas. And the faith-based is the 35, 45-year-old soccer mom and up. And it's secular money that pays them to stay there, right? And so, but we'd like to say that everything is faith-based. It's just a question of which faith. And so we're trying to find the faith-based stuff that's too Christian for Hollywood, or too conservative for Hollywood, and then is also too manly for normal faith-based, too masculine, too tough for that faith-based market, and to try and really build out that middle. So Barely Biblical is a good example. Churchville is a really good example. You know, it's got it's a comedy it's not for kids, but it's about the church. It got the kinds of characters that you run into in a church that are like the crazy uncles of Christianity. We've got those, just like any family does. And it points out how goofy and silly that we can be. You know, like the church counselor that's so obsessed with everybody's masturbation habits. You know, you're like, that's just that. If you're in the church long enough, you run into the guy that really thinks like if all the teenagers would stop masturbating, revival would break out. Like, and they just get, you know, that's funny. Those are funny jokes. It's not for little kids, but it's way too Christian to put anywhere else.
Yeah.
So those sorts of things are really, you know, what we're looking for. And then we've got a show, one we haven't announced yet, called The Lesbian and the Lumberjack, about a woman who thinks she's a lesbian, but it turns out she's just never met a real man. So it's a satirical, it's a satirical rom-com.
Tell them the line.
Oh yeah, we just got our new it's the tagline is, she's got an axe to grind, he's got an axe.
Oof.
So
I gotta see this.
Yeah, so those sorts of things, you know, where there's nobody that would possibly touch that one. Should I tell them about? I don't know. Should I tell them about LaShawn? Or is that too far?
Oh yeah. Sure.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So you know, our version of Adult Swim, the pilot episode is called LaShawn. And it's about an aborted black fetus that survives his Planned Parenthood abortion and gets magical powers of song to fight transvestites and feminists.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, right. So and the creator of it, he said, look, I want to start off the series by showing everybody that there's nobody that's going to go farther than that. So you've got the freedom as a conservative animation company to come in and make really whatever you want, because nobody's going to go farther than that. So he just made a list of all the things that you're not allowed to say and set them all in one 5-minute cartoon. So yeah, so we're just trying to find those sorts of projects that really say, like, hey, we believe all of our conservative principles, Christian principles, down all the way to the bottom of our feet, and we're not ashamed of any of them. And it's funner over here anyway, so you should come have fun with us. Where, you know, so we got another show called the #Fake News Show, and where the tagline is saving comedy from cancel culture. It's just about, you know, it's the group of comedians that take the previous week's headlines and act out the narrative that they're trying to spin. And it's really funny, and it's a way of simultaneously saying, hey, look, there's a narrative they're trying to spin on you, and using comedy to unravel it and just have fun. Because people that are laughing are really hard to manipulate. So, so those sorts of shows, that's what we're looking for. That kind of good stuff.
Nice. So if you guys watching know of any filmmakers, some artists that want to put their stuff on Lore, make sure you tell them, give them a nudge. Let's see. I'm just checking the chat if I see any more questions here. Someone asked earlier, what's wrong with church ladies? I think you sort of alluded to that, where it's like, sort of like this.
Yeah,
Oh,
there's
there you
nothing
go.
wrong. There's nothing wrong with church ladies. But you don't want them picking the movie for you every Friday night, right? So, uh, and so what happened in the faith-based market is they're told anybody from the family has to be able to sit down and watch whatever gets made, but that's not how you normally choose a movie for when you've got teenagers and their parents watching a movie together. It's different than when you've got 2-3-year-olds watching a movie with the parents or by themselves. And so when we say it's unfiltered by church ladies, it's not because we don't love church ladies. It's because we don't want them picking the movie for us on Friday night.
I think that's fair. That's fair. Okay. Any other questions for the folks over at Lore? Any questions at all? Any questions for me? I can try to answer. So
I'll say this, Gothics. Your documentary is really amazing, and people need to see it.
Oh, thanks.
Really, really good.
And I know the model that we're doing is crazy and has never been done before. But there was also that one time where there was the first few people who downloaded an app and had a stranger pick them up to take them places, and it was called Uber, right? So there's always that moment where technology is new and you're not sure if you should use it, but there's always those first early adopters. So just to all your subscribers who have subscribed so far and are funding your show, I just sincerely want to say thank you, because what we're doing is so crazy and off the wall and impossible that it can only work with a really dedicated core audience and a great movie, and that's exactly what you have, both. And so I'm excited to get this project funded, and I think it really can happen. It can happen really soon. So,
all right, you hear that, guys? Go check it out. Go subscribe.
Gothics is how you subscribe, by the way.
If you can get in a car with the stranger Uber, you can help fund some good movies. My movie. Let's see. Vapin Gamers. So how does the subscriptions on the platform, how does it work? Are we able to watch anything on there, or just projects that are helping to support?
Yeah, anything that gets funded, everybody gets to watch. Everybody that has a subscription gets to watch. So
yeah,
it's
not paywall like Patreon. It's right, so the community is building the streaming platform together. So you're spending your monthly subscription funding content. There are 2 documentary series on there to watch right now. One's a really cool, you can watch this as soon as you subscribe. It's a really cool ghost hunting documentary style thing, paranormal ghost hunting documentary series where they're investigating demon possession in West Virginia. Really amazing, really great. That's probably our most popular show, and we funded that during beta a year ago, and it's really amazing. I think you guys should check that out. So
okay, cool. And I think we kind of answered this, how many future projects we have lined up.
We have 40 under contract right now.
Oh, okay.
So,
no, you didn't say that explicitly. That's a lot.
Yeah,
that's
it
awesome.
It is a lot. Yeah, we're really excited. We've got it. We just need the subscribers to come in and see these amazing projects and fund them.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, guys, I want to thank you for hanging out with me on the stream. This was great. I hope people are more informed about what Lore is. And again, if you guys want to help fund the Gothics documentary, just go to lore.tv/Gothics and use your Lore. Was it loot? Use your loot towards my project. But yeah, is there anything else you guys wanted to add?
No, just that I'm excited for everyone to see your movie.
Okay, me too.
I would say probably subscribe now, because I won't give any of the details away, but you want to subscribe now, because the longer you subscribe, the more you can fund your project. But also, very soon, we're going to be having some pretty massive gold loot giveaways
Hmm.
that could fund Gothic's documentary really quickly. So you guys are going to want to be in the system
Okay.
when those announcements happen. That's all I'll say.
And no, it's not BLM style loot. This is not stolen loot. Okay.
There are also not mysterious pallets of bricks showing up anywhere. So
Awesome. All right. Well, I guess that's it, guys. I guess I will let you guys go. I'll probably stay on and chat with the stream for a little bit more. But it was awesome having you guys on. And whenever you want to come back again, let me know.
all right, thanks so much.
Bye.